Boston race hustlers are now shaking down the city and specifically white churches for $15 billion. Here's why.
We call on the white church in Boston to join us in supporting a black reparations movement.
Standing in solidarity, clergy leaders from across the city of Boston gathered for an interfaith, multiracial meeting at the Resurrection Lutheran Church in Roxbury, Nubian Square. They're here to ask the religious community to atone for Black Boston suffering and support Black reparations.
And we are coming, as Dr. King said, to get our check.
Organizers from the Boston People's Reparation Commission say they're also following up on their demand on the city of Boston for a $15 billion initial payout to begin the process towards repair and reconciliation to the city's black community.
$5 billion as initial payment around cash payouts, $5 billion around strengthening our financial institutions, creating a new black bank, $5 billion in terms of addressing issues of the education achievement gap between blacks and whites.
In 2022, the Boston City Council and Mayor Michelle Wu offered an official apology for the city's involvement in the transatlantic slave trade.
Wow. Boy, oh boy. I guess they got some accountant in there. They said, okay, because of the transatlantic slave trade of 300 years ago, you owe, and you carry the interest rate, this is some like New York Letitia James kind of math, you owe $15 billion. And it's got to come out of the taxpayers of Boston for some reason, and specifically out of white churches. So says Reverend so-and-so, that young guy. I guess he's the new black race hustler. I don't know his name, but I saw he Reverend something. So he's the new Jesse Jackson. He's the new Al Sharpton. It's a pretty lucrative job. I think it's undignified work, but it can definitely be lucrative. Al Sharpton's worn a lot of nice suits for many years now, just trying to stir the pot on race relations and demand endless money. In this case now from white churches. And it's sad to me, as a mackerel-snapping papist myself, a member of a church that is called the Universal Church, the Catholic Church. It's very sad to see these terms like white churches, black churches, because, for the Catholic Church, we don't really view things that way. I guess with some of the immigrant groups in America, you'd say, oh, it's an Irish parish, that's an Italian parish. But the church broadly, encompasses all races. You go to Mass, you'll see people of all different races, and they're all kind of mixed up together. The churches had white saints and black saints and Asian saints and all sorts of saints for a very long time. But the fact that certain sects can divvy themselves up and say, we're the black church and you're the white church, and so the white church has to give us $15 billion, that opens the door to a lot of really terrible actions. Politically terrible, spiritually damaging, just ultimately wrong. Right now, go to tnusa.com/Knowles. Do you owe back taxes or still have unfiled returns? Not only is owing back taxes stressful, but the IRS has also become more determined than ever. The IRS's chief data and analytics officer revealed that they are focused on an enforcement project with an average return on investment of about $6 for every $1 spent. They are targeting individuals and businesses that currently owe back taxes or haven't filed their returns first. Tax Network USA, the nation's leading tax relief firm, knows the tax code and will fight for you. With a record of negotiating over $1 billion in tax relief for their clients, their team is knowledgeable in handling any type of tax issue. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, they can help. Even if you don't have all your personal or business records from over the years, they can get you filed up to date. Facing the IRS without a professional is not a smart move. Contact Tax Network USA for the best strategic advice to help reduce or even eliminate your tax debt. Call today at 1-800-245-6000 or visit their website at tnusa.com/Knowles, Canada WLES. They will give you a free private consultation on how you can settle your tax debt today. tnusa.com/Knowles. The reason I bring it up, though, is not because some race hustler guy who calls himself a reverend is, running a racket that's been going on for many decades. It's to remind people, for even these, the black activists demanding this who call themselves reverend, or the white churches who might acquiesce and just give money to black people as part of some kind of shakedown scheme. The greatest saints could have been the worst sinners. And the worst sinners could be the greatest saints. This is a fact observed by many religious people over the years, that people have a great capacity. Some people have the capacity for more acts of greatness and greater acts of greatness than others. And they can turn this to good ends, or they can turn this to evil ends. So when the church does what it's supposed to do, it's really, really great. And society flourishes, and souls are saved, and people live in accord with reason, and all of that leads to the flourishing of the common good. When the church goes wrong, when the church splinters up into a lot of pieces, when the church promotes vice, when the church even promotes one virtue to the exclusion of the other virtues, which is probably an even better definition of heresy. When the church falls into the trap of the fashions of the age and the racial ideologies that are so popular today, and when the church marries herself to the spirit of the age, which will leave her a widow in the next, not the church, but all these little splinter groups. When all of that happens, the churches can be real, real bad, can go really, really bad. And they lose the salt loses its saltiness, and it's good for nothing. Something to watch out for. I mentioned yesterday, we're in Holy Week. This is when the devil's working overtime. This is when you got to watch out and pray that you fall not into temptation. Very easy to do. And then the churches become absolute caricatures. Florida, under Governor Ron DeSantis, just passed a law banning social media for kids. I love this story. I love it. This is a great law. This is a great idea. Every Republican in the country should follow it. Florida will now have one of the country's most restrictive social media bans for minors. DeSantis just signed it yesterday. It will ban social media accounts for children under 14, and it will require parental permission for 15 and 16-year-olds. DeSantis actually there was a proposal that DeSantis vetoed earlier this month. It was a little tougher, but this is still pretty tough. No social media if you're under 14, and parental permission if you're under 17. It was the top priority for the Republican Speaker, Paul Renner. Takes effect January 1st of next year. This is totally right. This is great legislation, and it will separate the conservatives from the libertarians. The libertarians will say that, we just need individual rights. We don't need the big government passing any more restrictions. Sure, big tech might be against us, but, what's the... if we empower the government to restrict them, then, what's the limit? They're going to go and, they're going to take your guns and, they're going to say the government can do anything. No, this is a conservative wielding political power in Florida with a targeted piece of legislation to stop kids from using social media which can poison their minds. There have been plenty of studies on this. Social media use can lead to increased anxiety, depression, suicidality, even in kids. The left pretends to care about this when it comes to the sexual confusion that they implant in the children, often. But when it comes to social media, they don't want to do it. They don't want to touch it. Because social media is a great vessel for indoctrinating kids in all of the crazy theories that the left promotes. So the Republican governor comes in, he says, nope, not doing it. Kids, sorry. I mean, the thought of giving your kid a smartphone seems to me so crazy. My kids are very little right now. Maybe I'll cave when the time comes, but I don't think I will, because those smartphones are like portals to hell, and you need to be able to have some discipline whatsoever. 13-year-olds sure don't have that. This is great stuff. The conservatives will say, yeah, social media, very bad. Children, not capable of using their reason in its totality, not particularly disciplined. We need to restrict that. Love it. That was a great clip, huh? You can be frank. You can be honest. It was a great clip. And now you can ring that bell and subscribe, and you get all the clips and so much more. See you there.